Good evening. It's a pleasure to see you all here tonight. We are gathering to hear from the two candidates for Maplewood Township Committee. It is my pleasure. I am Michelle Barbaro, and I am on the management team of the League of Women Voters of Maplewood South Orange. And as I said, we're delighted to have you. The two candidates here will answer questions that were prepared by the League, and then you will have an opportunity to write down questions on cards that have been offered. And the moderator will screen them and will ask them, and then they will give their closing statements. The moderator tonight is Dawn, and my head is Dawn Clark, Vice President of Voter Service of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey, and we're very honored to have her here tonight. Dawn?
I'm going to give you a little bit of a blurb first that's very important to us. The League of Women Voters of New Jersey, a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League. The League is committed to providing fact-based information about issues and the positions candidates take on those issues to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the electoral process. Conducting debates like this one is the way we encourage informed and active participation in government. Your participation today helps us carry out our mission, and we thank you for coming. The League would like to make you aware that in New Jersey, there will be two constitutional amendment questions on the November 8, 2016 general election ballot. They are authorizing the legislature by law to, number one, permit casino gambling in two counties other than Atlantic City, and two, dedicate additional revenues to the state transportation system. As a service to the voting public, the League of New Jersey Education Fund has prepared an analysis of each ballot question with reasons to vote either pro or con. They are complex issues. We urge you to take advantage of this resource to acquire the necessary understanding to cast an informed vote. Prepared summary sheets are available for you to take at the entrance table. They're a gray one and a blue one, and please avail yourself of that. And if you have friends, and for those who are watching, you can go to www.lwvnj.org and just click on ballot questions. And then you will be able to go and address that very long ballot on November 8th. It's a very complex ballot, so you need all the information you can get. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Any use of the League name or of footage from the debate and campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including internet, cable, or television, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. The candidates understand that. All right, as a courtesy to the candidates, please turn off all your cell phones and any other electronic devices that you have, and please refrain from taking photographs or videos during the debate. I also would like to just give a couple of floor rules as we go forward. The candidates understand, but you need to appreciate also that all the questions from the audience and the candidates' remarks must follow the League policy of being concerned with issues and not personalities. I will not allow any abusive, personalized, or irrelevant questions or comments. Okay? And so that we can move along in the allotted time, I would ask you to withhold your applause until the conclusion of the forum. Okay? That's all the rules. And now I would like to introduce the candidates. You probably know them better than me. I pronunciation here. This is a township committee vote. You have to vote for one member of the township committee. It's for a 3-year term. And the two candidates are to my immediate right, Frank McGee, and then to his right, Mike Summerskill. Okay? And they have agreed to we chose positions for opening statements, and so Mr. Summerskill will be the first speaker, and Mr. McGee will be the second speaker. We are going to have the 2-minute opening statement from each of them, and then we will have the questions that were prepared by the league, and they will go in reverse order for the closing statements. But I'd like to move forward now and finally hear from them. So for 2 minutes, and we have timekeepers here in the front that are going to keep us all on the up and up. So for 2 minutes, Mr. Summerskill, would you please do your opening remarks?
Sure. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for your service to the community in this process. The community is better for it, and I appreciate having the opportunity tonight. Thank you all for volunteering as well. I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I recognize some of you from the last debate, so I'll take that as a good sign that you came back for more. Many of you had given me positive feedback from some of the ideas that I shared at the last debate. But to be fair, I can't take credit for all of those ideas. It's true, some of them came while I was working on the Stairmaster at Eastside Fitness, but others came from our township committee members, and more importantly, from residents in the community. I've spoken, or I've knocked on, I would say, about 2,800 doors since I started this process, and spoken to literally hundreds and hundreds of voters in town. I've heard your concerns. I've heard about the New Jersey Transit platforms, and I've heard about school funding, and I've heard about the platform tennis courts. The list goes on, and of course taxes. As my brother-in-law likes to say, 90% of Maplewood is Democrats, but 100% complain about taxes. But more importantly than the issues that I've heard about your family, and I've heard about your Maplewood life. You can't underestimate the power of those conversations, and they've impacted me greatly. To put it simply, I just think you deserve the best. And tonight, I'm here to show you that I'm the best candidate for this job, and I really appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
And thank you. Now we'll hear from Frank McGee.
Great, thank you, Dawn. And good evening, everyone. My name is Frank McGee, and I'm the Democratic nominee for Township Committee. I'd like to, first off, I say thank you to Dawn and to Michelle, and for the League of Women Voters for putting on this wonderful event, and for you, the residents, for coming out this evening. I moved to Maplewood in 2013 with my wife, Maria, and my daughter, Madison. My daughter, Madison, is in the audience tonight. She is a 6th grader at Maplewood Middle. And my wife, Marie, who is an executive at a Fortune 100 company here in New Jersey. So we're both working parents and believe in hard work. Since I moved to Maplewood, I've been very involved since day one with organizations like the Achieve Foundation, working with Maplewood Madness, the Coalition on Race has an active role there, working on a reorg for the company, or the organization, I should say, because that was important to make sure you had more transparency with the Coalition on Race, and then also the Library Foundation Board. The Library Foundation Board does great work here in this very building to make sure we help subsidize the budget, which is currently being funded by the Township Committee. But this is not my first foray into civic duty. When I lived in Newton, Massachusetts, I was a member of the Economic Development Commission. And the mission of that organization was to acquire, to assist, and promote new and existing businesses in Newton, Massachusetts. And with that, the mission of that was very simple. It would help strengthen our local economy, provide jobs, and also increase the tax base. I look forward to talking to you tonight about redevelopment, and I have great ideas I want to share with you. I think being part of the Township Committee is being a leader, but also being collaborative, and together we will. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Now we're going to move to the questions that have been prepared by the league and given to the candidates prior to this. I'm going to start with you, Mr. McGehee, and this one is on development and redevelopment. And each of you will have a minute and a half to respond to this question. What is the appropriate balance between keeping a small town feeling and growing into a 21st century community?
Well, actually, we're already a 21st century community. We're already here. I mean, just a year ago, our village went best downtown, and just recently, our Memorial Park won the great outdoor spaces of New Jersey. So we're already a great 21st century community in town. But what's interesting is that we have to realize that we cannot develop ourselves out of our tax burden. Even when you take a look at the Clarities, which is going to the village, it's probably going to save us $10 to $15. But development or redevelopment doesn't necessarily mean building. Development or redevelopment can also mean leveraging existing buildings and finding the right businesses to get into those buildings. And that's what we did at EDC, and that's what we can do here in Maplewood. Find ways to leverage the buildings that exist by finding the right businesses to get them in. And before I end my answer, I want to say one more thing. The time has come to make our downtown, our village, an historical district. It is basically the epicenter and charm of our community. And also, if you do that, we'll also see property values rise as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Summersgill.
Sure. So I don't think that redevelopment and balancing the small town feel and the 21st century community, I don't think that's for the township committee to decide. That should come from the residents and the businesses that operate in town. So while I would support the resident businesses' wishes, I wouldn't impose my own views on shaping our village. Where I think we've gotten it wrong lately is when the township committee hasn't implemented the will of the people and hasn't gotten us the best deal on some of the properties and developments that have gone in. The developers, they're trying their best to get the best deal from them, for themselves. And if you don't come in with that perspective, you'll trust that they'll bring quality businesses to the village. And you'll take them at face value. But in reality, the only person that's going to look out for the best interests of the town has to be the township committee and its employees. And I also think that keeping the village a village is more than one building. And it's an entire plan and village that we have to consider and not just focus on one building. The last thing I'll say is that I'd like to see spaces and services designed with our new population of telecommuters, work from home, flexible work schedule, families. I worked at Work and Play facility in South Orange this summer, and I loved it. It was a great community feel. It provided a flexible place for me to work and internet access. I'd like to see services like that be delivered to our residents from the town. It's not mine.
It's hard.
I'd like to rebuttal that.
30 seconds.
Thank you so much. In terms of, it's not the town's decision or not. The fact of the matter is that our land is basically almost fully occupied. I mean, we're 90% residential, Mike. And so I think you have to understand that we only have a small space of development to work in. And so we must leverage existing areas and find a way to create value. So we can't bid up to residents when it's actually landlocked. We're not going to build on the golf course. That's just not going to happen. And plus the floodplain. And also, when you think about buildings, the most sustainable building is the one that's already built.
Thank you. Mr. Summersgill, 30 seconds?
Yeah, just to redouble what I said, I don't think it's for the township committee to decide, and I would listen to the voters and the citizens and the businesses. Regardless of how much land we have, it's their land, it's not the township committee's to make this decision.
Okay, we're going to start with you, Mr. Summersgill, on the second question. Many governments and businesses believe that outsourcing is a benefit to saving money. What are your thoughts about outsourcing some services as opposed to having those services be part of the township workforce?
That's a great question. So I've worked in outsourcing for the last 10 years, so I'm very familiar with the space. Outsourcing by default doesn't necessarily save you money. If you're talking about labor, you're going to still pay the same salaries plus a markup to the outsourcing company, which is like the one I work with. So you're paying more for the labor because of that. But what you want to look at is for services that where you don't have expertise, so you don't know how to hire, to train, to develop those types of people. You can't keep up with technology in that space. So there are some things that make sense to outsource. When I look at the township services, most of the services are core to the business of the town. They're for serving the township, citizens. Where maybe there's an opportunity, I would look at things that are seasonal. So something like, say, snow removal. Only happens a couple times a year. You've got to invest in the equipment, the people to deliver that service. So that may be something that I would look at for outsourcing. The other benefit of outsourcing is you've got very good contracts, which will have service level agreements, so you can demand that the services deliver the expectations you want. And you need to have expertise when those contracts are getting written, and that's something that I would bring to the table. So I definitely would consider outsourcing with a focus on making sure the services are being delivered to the standards the town wants, but there's always opportunity to do things differently and better, and I would take a look at all options.
All right, Mr. McGee, outsourcing.
Great, thank you. Well, I think everything is on the table, and because of that, I am also a proponent for outsourcing with two caveats. One, that we don't sacrifice service for cost. And two, that we look at what I call in business baby steps. So we look at short-term contracts coupled with benchmarks, and then if we get the quality of service in which we initially asked for, then we can move forward with subsequent short-term contracts or long-term contracts. And there are great places where we can use, like the leading municipalities. It's a great place, a resource of information we can leverage to subsequently find the right type of vendors for the outsourcing that we need for the various services that we frankly cannot do here in town. But one thing I do want to mention is in the last debate, my opponent communicated that in shared services, the only savings would be the reduction of a fire chief or upper management, and that's actually false. Shared services provides savings for us, coupling with the South Orange Fire Department of employees as well as equipment. The bottom line is that 70% of our fires, 70% of our calls are outside of our town. Less than 12 structural fires occur in Maplewood. We have more than enough services that we need. And so therefore, looking into that process of subsequently bringing our fire departments together is a way to help cut costs. And something we have to look at. The man too is doing a great job of consulting. My opponent didn't even see the results, and he already communicated that he would not be in favor of it. Let's get the information first and make the decision intellectually.
Would you like 30 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a true statement to say I wouldn't be in favor of it. I said I would be interested in following the recommendations of the consulting firm. And I'm surprised to hear that our fire department is so grossly overstaffed and over equipment. That hasn't been what I've experienced in the 8 years I've been in town. We're always concerned about response times, and it's not an area where you cut to the bone because you need capacity to respond to
Response time is not on the table.
The last thing I'll say is Frank kind of made, I would say, uninformed comment around outsourcing. So outsourcing is not something you can take a little bite of. If you go take full plunge into outsourcing, you're going to eliminate those positions before you start that contract. You can't then decide 6 months later to bring back those employees who are impacted. So you really have to be very careful how you decide to outsource, and that's something I'm experienced with.
Now,
With the
Mr.
fire
McGee.
department, in terms of reduction of staff, we have many fire officers or people who are actually up for retirement. So we simply would just have attrition. So those fighters would leave, and then subsequently we would not backfill them. So we're not firing anyone though.
Okay, thank you. That was a little heated. You may have to go back to that. I'm going to ask you, Mr. McGee, to start with the third question that we have. Many communities feel that enticements are necessary to attract developers. Pilots and tax abatements are lures, but also have an impact on current taxpayers. What do you propose to do when you are on the township committee, and how do you balance these two competing interests?
Thanks, Don. Well, I'm not a pilot guy, so I'm saying that right now. But I do think what we need to do is professionalize the process. If a developer comes to us and we as the township committee request that the developer provides us a financial analyst, they have to by law provide us through an escrow account with a financial analyst. This analyst becomes a third-party person, and he or she can go about the process of checking out the cost, hard costs, soft costs, construction costs, everything. and build a pro forma, which will show us what the ROI would be if they actually get the event. And so then what we can do is we take that information and make a right decision if you would even to consider a pilot. But the key here is we need to professionalize this process, something we haven't done in the past and something we can do in the future.
Okay, Mr. Summersgill.
Yeah, I agree with Frank that you do need to look at all sides of the transaction when you consider these pilots and abatements. It's really a business transaction, so the bigger the abatement or pilot that you give, the more the developer is willing to spend either to acquire the property, develop it, build it out. So as long as you understand both sides' interests, then you can make an informed decision. But the real thing is understanding the value of the asset you have, and I think that's where the town was disappointed with how it was handled at the post office site. That was a prime piece of real estate in town, and you need to understand that value. And to give you a good example of not understanding the value of our assets, the Township Committee recently supported an easement for the developer developing the post office site that would give them an abatement so that they could basically take up 2 to 3 parking spaces. They're not actually spaces, but to give you a sense of the size of the land. So they could build a dumpster. The building's not even built yet, and we're giving them an easement. The mayor's original proposal was to give them that abatement for free, $0. Only after Township Committee discussion did they determine that $5,000 was the right amount. We recently had that parking lot appraised. It's worth over $600,000. I went out and counted the spaces, divided by the number of spaces we're giving up, divided by the total number of spaces. It's about a $60,000 piece of property. So those things add up. And if I'm on the Township Committee, they won't get a rubber stamp from me. They'll get healthy discussion so we can reach the best outcomes for our community. And that's what I'm committed to do if you vote for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to now move on to the next question. And Mr. Summersgill, you're going to start with this one. There is an emphasis on meeting the needs of young families. However, many of our older residents are finding it difficult to remain in town, whether because of the tax burden, their inability to remain mobile, or lack of services to meet their needs. What do you see as an answer for those long-term residents?
Well, first thing I want to say is that the current recreational programs we have are great. I've spoken to residents, I've been to the senior center, and I've heard about the value. So this isn't about changing what we have as far as those programs. However, this population needs more than just recreation programs. I participated today in the local steering committee for the age-friendly communities initiative that we have going on. So during that meeting, we discussed the results of the recent community surveys as well as focus groups. And they listed 5 top things that our population over 60 is looking for. Respect and social inclusion, outdoor spaces, communication and information, civic participation and volunteerism. But notice none of those are recreation. And I'd like to say that's because Michelle Wesley, our senior coordinator, does a great job and delivers great recreation. But I also think it's because we're focusing on the wrong things, and we need to focus on, financial services, helping people age in place, social services, creating opportunities for them to volunteer in the community. There's many services that I don't believe you're going to get when you have senior services delivered out of recreation. So I propose taking the senior services coordinator, having them report to the township committee or the township administrator, elevating the role. I also support Irene Dunn-Savage and Kirk Piley from Senior Share's suggestion that we have a senior services committee formed. You've got a population that literally could be 40 years from 60 to 100 plus in the township. And I don't think we do enough for that population, and it needs to have more focus in our community and from the township committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGeady, your thoughts?
First, I want to really applaud Mary and also Sheila Colum of South Orange President for getting a substantial grotto fund for senior living grant. I think that was a wonderful opportunity because of this grant, they've been able to do significant research to find out what our seniors need, inclusive of transportation, health, and financial services. They held interviews, surveys. They had focus groups. Actually, the focus group on June 5th, I actually attended. I think I was probably the youngest person in the audience. But it was a great learning for me to listen to the seniors there. What's important is that they are finishing up this process with the grotto fund funding that they got, and we're going to see what the results are. And even though I'm not a senior, I look forward to putting in action whatever they come up with. But one thing that we do need to do is we need to think about how our seniors can stay in Maplewood. I keep hearing time and time again that it's too expensive and I'm getting basically priced out of my home. Well, with that being said, there's a shared housing model which they can use. And this is something that's happening right now in South Orange and Montclair, right around us, where seniors can actually have renters in their home and help subsidize the tax burden. Now, yes, it's the same tax cost, but they can help subsidize that burden, and it's totally legal. And it's something that we need to help communicate out. And as a marketer who uses multiple channels, I will do that as well. And finally, I do think that we do need to have a shared South Orange and Maplewood senior organization, because we share many services, and this is one service that we definitely need to share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You want 30 seconds, Mr.?
Just to clarify, so I really think this role the person needs to be an advocate for seniors. And they need to be someone that connects them to services. And they need to wake up and go to sleep every day thinking about the seniors in our community. And what I find hard is just the financial contribution that this population makes to our town. They don't receive the benefit of the schools, even if they had their kid graduate and it's been 30 years, they're still paying into our taxes. I'd just like to see us do more. It feels like they deserve more, and that's what I'd be focused on getting more.
Okay. Then we'll move on, Mr. McGehee, and you can do the next question. With redevelopment comes enticement to lure businesses into town. How do you balance the needs to fill stores by attracting new businesses and loyalty to long-time businesses that have been productive partners for such long periods of time?
Thanks, Don.
New and old.
Exactly. In terms of this question, I think it's great because it kind of hits right back home on a couple of things for me. It goes back to my days in Newton, Massachusetts, where we were tasked with 13 villages in the city and trying to find new businesses, but at the same time having to interwoven into current businesses without saturating the actual experience for our residents. And so one thing that comes to mind here is the ability to leverage market research. I know, for example, 2 years ago, South Orange did a wonderful study in their village with the JGSC organization. It was a group that looked into finding ways to bring the right businesses, the right verticals that we call the business, into town without subsequently hurting other businesses that were there. So one thing we have to do is we have to do the market research. We have to professionalize this process, make sure we understand exactly what the target market is. We listen to the residents and find the gaps. And that's the one thing that we did on the EDC, the Economic Development Commission. We found ways to find the right appropriate businesses for the right areas and subsequently made sure that we supported them in terms of their marketing efforts, in terms of their financial ability to solve it and move forward in the community.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Summersgill, your thoughts?
So I hate to see a tax credit go to Starbucks. It just doesn't feel right. It's hard for local businesses like Linda's Dry Cleaners to have a competitor move in with basically tax subsidized rent. So that person's going to pay less because we gave a tax abatement. And so now they're competing with someone that's not an even playing field, and that's a valuable business in our village. So things like that concern me. I also, I've said this before, I think we need to make sure we consider all business districts individually, so we can't treat Springfield or Irvington Avenue like we treat the village. I think what we've seen is there's a lot of discontent in town because they feel like these deals are done, but by the time they're brought to light, they're already a done deal, and they haven't taken input from the community. I want to applaud Greg Lambert, who's actually here in the audience, but he presented at the Township Committee on Tuesday night formula-based ordinances, formula-based business ordinance, and it was a well-informed discussion start. And so I'm interested to see where that goes, but I appreciate that he did the research, he brought his expertise to bear in law, and I think that's the type of behavior we need on the Township Committee to really move this town forward, and I think that that's exciting to see. And then the Township Committee committed to having a public discussion, which I think is also excellent.
Okay,
Just a quick point.
30 seconds? Okay.
Thanks. And just kind of talking about what Greg did on Tuesday, I was in attendance as well. One thing that's important to recognize is that Greg did the due diligence, and then there's a process, and the transparency of how this works has not been good at this point, and so we can do better with that. So Greg presented a potential ordinance, a potential opportunity, and now it's going to fit back to the planning board and also other committees as well. And I think what we need to understand as residents is that when you have ideas, When you have suggestions, you can filter them back to your township committee members. The township committee subsequently will take that, have a conversation with you, and then take that and move it toward committees, and then eventually bring it back to ordinance. So there's processes that happen here in our township that we're not aware of. And if I'm on the township committee, I will make them aware.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move forward to the next question then. And Mr. Summersgill, would you start with this one? What area of the community, geographic or department or other, needs the most attention, and how do you propose to address this?
Sure. So I start with myself. So if I'm elected to the township committee, I think that's where we get the biggest impact. If we get the township committee right, the rest will flow from it. We don't have good governance processes in place. We use like the legal notice process to manage, items from one week to the next. So public notice is not a management system. We need a way to keep track of what was discussed in one meeting, what was discussed in the next, did we follow through on what we said we were going to do, what's the progress, what's the status, and that's missing. And because of that, we have good ideas that don't get done. There's no week over week, no month over month system of reporting. To give you an example, the mayor raised Frank's tax plan 2 meetings ago, and then we had a meeting on Tuesday night, and there was no discussion on it. Frank was there and did a public comment, but didn't mention it. And it's like, why are we not talking about these things? It's a good idea, we should discuss it. Now, I'd like to think that the reason we didn't discuss it is because it's not a good plan, and the township committee is quietly moving on. But I think realistically, it's just because there's not good management and focus in place. And that's my area of expertise: business processes, reporting, accountability, transparency, budget, plan. These are all words that I live and breathe, and that's what I bring to the township committee.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just quickly comment on what my opponent said. Yes, I attend every township committee meeting. I think I missed 2 since last November before I even thought about running for office. And yes, I did bring up the tax incentive program, and yes, I do think it's a good program, Mike. But I do think that in terms of the mayor bringing it up or not, it's totally irrelevant regardless of thinks it's a good program or not. Unfortunately, he stepped out. The bottom line is that ideas are formulated, and there's subsequent conversation to happen. They don't say it to happen on public record.
Okay, okay, and you're going to have to hold, because you need to answer what needs the most attention and how you propose to address it.
Yes, thank you for pointing a little bit on. For me, it's the Hillcrest residential and commercial area. That's what needs the most help. For many of us in this room, I'm not even sure if you spend time over there, but I spend a lot of time over there when I'm knocking on doors and talking to residents. And right there off of Irvington and Parker, in that area, it borders Irvington, and it's kind of like a lost area. When I talk about, having everyone have a voice, it's exactly what I'm talking about. We all know Springfield Avenue, we all know the village, but we don't know Hillcrest. And so the problem is that we need to think about Maplewood as one town, not just segments, one town, one community. And that's an area we really need to spend some time focusing on. Now, of course, because it borders Irvington, the question is, well, is it Irvington or is it Maplewood? Doesn't matter. We can also collaborate with other towns. And so therefore, I think we need a special improvement district right there in that area to help bring that area of our town up to the level of Springfield as well as the village.
Okay. And now you can 30 seconds.
Just want to comment on Frank's tax plan that he thinks is right and we should do it. So first, it doesn't work. So I went to Marlboro. They're cited on the website of this company that provides this program. I went to one of the businesses that was touting it, and they're out of business. I was actually only able to find one business in Marlboro that actually still had the program. So it helps you do your homework and investigate things. And that's the kind of spirit that I bring to the township committee. And I think that the other thing is that, even if this program did work, I don't agree with, taking money from the schools in order to basically fund a program that's going to be unsuccessful.
Well, we wouldn't take any money from the schools, Mike. You need to read how the program works. One more thing I'd like to say in terms of, is, as we talked about Hillcrest, which is very important, the one area that transcends all of Maplewood, staying on that theme, is pedestrian safety. We've talked about it, and we got to continue to talk about it. It's getting dark out here. I walk home from the train station. I'm telling you, it's an issue. We've got to do a better job of enforcing our traffic laws, and we can do it with existing resources, and also we need to empower our residents so they can be safe on our streets, and our kids can be safe when they walk into school.
Okay, thank you. Now, we have time for, we got questions already. But I would like you to be thinking about it. And I'm going to advise you that if I can't read it, I can't, so make sure you write legibly, please. Anyway, okay, I'm going to, we have some questions, so I'm going to start. And I think I'd like to start with you, Mr. McGee. And on these, for the timekeepers, we're going to have 1 minute for each candidate to respond. You can, by the way, write a question for any one of the candidates, but both candidates will have an opportunity to respond. Okay. With the Hilton Library being so needy of more room and more books and more staff, do you support the effort to enlarge the Memorial Library at Baker Street? If so, why? Could the proposal now before us be constructed at Hilton? Do you understand that?
I think I do have the gist of the question.
Okay, good.
We did cover this a little bit at the Hilton debate, but again, I am a proponent for the expansion of this building here that we all are in at the moment. We have to take our library into the 21st century, if you will, because without the right resources for our young families that are coming in, and if you think about how this library has served us, I think right now, to my family that's in Haiti, that's dealing with some very serious issues right now, very serious issues. And we had Hurricane Sandy, everyone came here to this library, but the library construct is not adaptable now to how our population has shifted, and also to the needs of seniors who look for places to be. Our seniors are looking for resources, they're looking for places to be. The library experience is very important. The library is more than just a place we get books. The library is a place where we go to enrich ourselves, to the Ideas Festival, things on the wall. This is an epicenter of a community, and I totally support it.
Mr. Summerskill, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I live in the Hilton neighborhood, so I would say the Hilton branch is probably what I view as my library, and I go there with my daughters for pajama story time and the reading club, and the only time I think we come here is when the Hilton Library is not open. So I do think the library is a valuable resource, especially for kids after school. I think it provides a safe place for them to get their homework done, so I'm very supportive of the library program. I do think that it's something that we need to consider this space in the context of the whole town. And this is somewhere where I would see the senior advocate that I have referenced tonight could be involved, so that when we're doing this development and build out, we have a way to take feedback for the people in our community over the age of 60 and make sure that the library is also imagined with them in mind. And so I think that as long as we get community input and we're transparent, which the library actually has an excellent description of the project on the website, it's unbelievably transparent. You should check it out. I was amazed at what was there without me having to dig. So I think that's the right steps. And the people that we have on the library board, I think including Mr. McGahee, I think are the right people. So I have trust in the process.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to ask you to start with the next question, Mr. Summerskill. What steps, if any, do you believe Maplewood should take to prevent chain restaurants and stores from coming to town, particularly in the village?
So we touched on this briefly. I think that, like I said, Committeeman Lemberg's proposal of having a formula-based ordinance is a good idea. The reason I like that we're talking about it now is because we're talking about it in the context of what do we want this town to be, and we can take input on that, and less about saying, I don't want Starbucks, or I don't want, this business, or cold store creamery, because that's when it gets hard to have the debate, is when you're talking about a specific business. So I think if we do it in the context of what we want in our community, I think that's the right way to do it. I like Starbucks coffee. I like their product. I enjoy going to King's. That's my go-to Sunday afternoon grocery store. So it's hard to say no to all change or to all formula businesses, but we do need to have a plan, and I really hope we follow through on this initiative because I think it will stop us from having this debate 2-3 years from now when it comes up again, because it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mr. McGee.
Thank you. I think Greg's plan, Mr. Lemberg's plan was solid, and kudos to you again. You're getting a lot of praise tonight, sir.
That's all you need.
Exactly. You knew this was going to happen, didn't you? But one thing I think we need to recognize is that our community is, as much as one town, there are certain areas of our community where subsequently maybe a particular chain store could be more effective. We talked about the Hillcrest neighborhood. Maybe that's an opportunity there as an anchor, and we start going from there, because as a small business owner, myself actually, my family, it's very difficult to keep the cash flow going from the day to day. But also I want to tell our residents that, be it Starbucks, McDonald's, whatever the case may be, you're empowered by your wallet. And if you go to Village Coffee or you go to Palmer's, where I go, you can use your wallet to make your voice be heard.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to now ask Mr. McGee to start on the next question. This is not going to be easy. Are there any ideas you support that will help residents with property taxes? You've got a minute to do this.
Outside of people selling right now. I mean, at the end of the day, we know that our tax burden is heavy here in Maplewood. My wife and I were cognizant that when we made this decision to move here. And the bottom line is that working with the Board of Ed, working with Mila J.C., John McKeon, and my fellow Democratic leaders at the state level, assembly level, we're going to push legislation forward to help make a difference. Because at the end of the day, 58 cents of your dollar, of your tax dollar, is school funding, or the lack of school funding. And so that's one way that we can get to it. It's not happening tomorrow. We still have Mr. Christie in office, but that's part of the process that we can do to move forward and help adjust our tax dollars.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Summerskill.
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, so I've lived in New Jersey my whole life, and so I'm trying to think, if we're going to wait for Trenton to save us, we're in trouble. It's just, I support the initiative. I think we need to apply the school funding formula, as applied, but the answer is not in Trenton, and the answer here is in Maplewood. We control what we can control. So what we could control this year, again, I said there's about $675,000 in spending that I would have done differently. That would be, instead of your taxes going up 4% this year, they would have gone up 1.9, 1.8, something like that. It was great to see the township committee acted on the the police flu issue that we talked about the last debate. We didn't get a round number as far as the money we're recovering, but we are recovering money for that faulty construction design. So that's great. That's what we want. Go out there and get these things for our residents. The answer is not in Trenton. It's whether there's a Republican or a Democratic governor or anything in between. It's not there.
You're right. It's shared services.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. How about moving on? And Mr. Summerskill, with the condemning of the high school swimming pool, what would your thoughts be for having a year-round community pool for South Orange, Maplewood?
So I'm on the pool advisory committee. There's a significant population of swimmers in town. They're year-long swimmers, and many of them swim outside of town for their training. It's hard. I mean, I think the cost to redo that pool was like $3 million the last time it was up for discussion. That's a lot of money, and you got to weigh that out with usage. When I heard about the issue of the pool, my first thought was, great, what an opportunity to do something with that space. Maybe we bring back the VOTAC and science and engineering programs that we don't have at the school, or maybe there's something else that I'm not even privy to that we could use that space. So I'm not against a community pool for year-round. I just need to look at the cost, and if it's something that can be afforded. It was expensive the last time around, and the town didn't go for it. So that's something that when you've lived in town for 8 years, you've been around the block on many of these issues.
Okay. Can you address that, Mr. McGee?
Sure, absolutely. Mike is on the pool committee, and I know for a fact that they've been losing market share year over year. So we're having a hard time basically providing funding for the pool committee as it is. So I think pools are, just like an investment, in a boat, it's a slippery slope. So I think in terms of trying to find a way to create a community pool, it's a difficult challenge. The beautiful things we have YMCA and other outsourced programs that we can leverage, as I know we do for our pool and our swim teams. For me, the bottom line is that I would not at this point incur extra expense to have a community pool.
You would like to reply?
Yeah,
30 seconds?
I take no credit for this, but the pool itself had its membership increase this year over year, the first time that's happened in, I think it was like 23 years. I'll post the numbers on my website. The Maplewood Inn actually did a story on it, and so did Village Green, so the facts are out there. I don't think we're done with the pool, and we need to, I want to look at pricing. That's, I think, the challenge of the pool is you can really apply basic economics, and it's a pricing exercise. And that's what I'm going to work on in the winter, so that when we make a recommendation to the township committee, we've got pricing backed with science that will hopefully balance out membership and revenue.
Yeah, well, the pricing has been an issue as I talk to residents who say, I only go to the pool 3 times a year, I'm not going to spend $450. So that is an issue, and I'd like to see that improved.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you, Mr. McGee, to handle this one. Handicapped residents on trains coming from New York City must use the South Orange station with an elevator because the 2 sets of steps in Maplewood are unmanageable. What would you do about this problem for the seniors and for the handicapped residents?
That's a great question. And first and foremost, the fact that that's an issue and it hasn't been brought to the township committee is an issue in itself. And so when we talk about leveraging emergency funds like we did for the flu, that's something that we should look at deeply. Now I know when you're taking the train into the city, because I take it early every morning, that there is accessibility from the Dunhill Road side. But to your point, if you're coming from the parking lot over Maplewood Avenue, that is an issue. It's a very serious issue. So I think that needs to be addressed. Obviously, there's cost involved, but we do need to address that issue.
Yeah, Mr. Summerson.
Yeah, it has been raised to the township committee before. I don't know a lot about it, so I'm not going to comment as far as what we can or can't do. But it is something I've heard from residents. It seems like there should be a solution, even if it's expensive. You know, it's a service that I think should be made. But I don't know what's stopped it in the past. It could be, you know, may not can dictate what New Jersey Transit does with their property. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming it's something like that.
So we need research is what we're doing.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. I have one more question here. I think I'll start with you, Mr. Summersgill. Do you believe there should be political diversity on the township committee? Or is one party rule what's in favor?
Depends on who's in charge. Right? It's easy to lament the political democrats of the town when you're on the short end of the stick. The reality is I've not seen anything out of our current township committee members that is partisan. They all want the best for the town. I'm looking to partner with them and add my skill set and hopefully bring the level of everybody up through this discussion. So we'll see if this is the year we break the 23-year streak, 37 straight elections. I like to tell my friends, do you really think we got it right all 37 times? You know? Probably not. But I can only speak to this year, and I'm going to work hard for your vote in 30 days.
Okay. Mr. McGee, what are your thoughts?
Short answer is yes. But it depends on how you look at diversity. I talk about how people of color don't feel like they have strong representation regardless of what you may or may not see on the township committee in certain areas of our community. And to me, that's important. I tell many residents that I am going to be your voice, and you're going to have an advocate there on TC. And it's not just the TC, by the way. It's these committees that we have as well. There's not a lot of minority representation. You don't see very many people of color, and a lot of the decisions they make impact those same people. And so there is an opportunity, and I'm going to be that leader, that advocate, and champion to bring the diversity that we boast about in our cocktail parties and our barbecues actually to our local government.
Okay. If there's no more questions, then I think we can move on to our closing statements from each of the candidates. And I appreciate the questions. They were good.
Thank you.
You did good work, people.
Good handwriting too. Good job.
Yes, it was helpful. All right, then we have 2 minutes for each of the candidates in their closing statements. And we're going to go in reverse order so that we're going to start with Frank McGee.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I thought it was a great dialogue and a great opportunity to talk about issues that were of concern to all of us as residents here in Maplewood. If I'm elected to be your township committee person, I promise you several things. And I'm using the word promise. Transparency, engagement, inclusivity, and trust. These are things I take very seriously. Hard work is something that I've grown up knowing since day one. I have parents that are working parents, school teachers, and they instilled that in me. And that's something that I carry with me to this very day. And I want to also mention something that's important. Inclusivity. Inclusivity is something that's very important. People all talk about recently about, is it important to be a Democrat, important to be a Republican? The question is absolutely. Because being government and being a Democrat means government can do good. And government's not bad. Government can do good things. And also collaborative work is important as well. So what I want to say to you tonight is, if you support me, if I have your vote, I guarantee that that's not the beginning. This is a continuum, a relationship where when I step on to the Township Committee office on January 1st, that I will be there for you from that day moving forward. You can call me, you can text me. It's a relationship. I can't do this by myself. Together we will, and together we can. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And now I'm going to call on Mike Summerskill.
Sure. Thank you again for hosting and doing a great job as moderator and timekeeper. Thank you. First, I'll say you don't have to wait until January 1st for my service. My service is offered now. So if there's an issue that you need, my phone number's out there, my email. I'm your advocate, and I'm happy to bring it to light. So don't wait until the election to decide to reach out to me. So many of you know me as a father, a husband, a neighbor, friend, terrible poker player, football fan, barbecue enthusiast. But I hope tonight you got to know me as an operational leader who can make a significant impact on our government and will be out there working for you. I want this job. I really want this job. I will pour my heart into it. And you're gonna see what the work ethic looks like when I get into the issues and I get into making things better. And I'm excited. I hope I get it. I really want this job. The great thing about local elections is that they're not distant. The candidates are not distant. This is not a philosophical discussion. This is not good government versus bad government. I'm right here. I'm accessible. I'm available for a cup of coffee. You can catch me at soccer practice. You can catch me on the train platform. So I just hope you take advantage of that if you do have questions, because I'm here. And this isn't something that's happening somewhere else. It's happening in our town. And so, regardless of your party affiliation, when you get into that voter booth on November 8th, and you can register in the back, you have a choice. And so choosing Frank is a vote for Maplewood's Democrat. A vote for me is a vote for Maplewood's democracy. So I hope you choose me, and thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I think a vote for me is a vote for the singer too. I disagree with that. My opponent here, that's the singer.
Okay. They did a good job, though, and you're lucky, people, because you have some very good candidates from whom to make your decision. It's you did good work.
For us this evening. I would like to thank members of the League of Women Voters of Maplewood South Orange for their help. And for those of you who like what we do in Maplewood South Orange, I just happen to have some application forms for membership. You have to be a citizen, and you have to be 21 and over, and give me a check, and that's it.
Welcome to Maplewood.
I never had an opportunity to go up. Your applications also for vote by mail ballots. The deadline for registering to vote, if you have moved, if you have kids who are becoming of age, anybody who's moved into town, the registration deadline is October 18th. So do it, and do it early. And there are vote by mail applications. The deadline for that to be received is November 1st. So do it earlier, it's better. And I talked to some people today while I was doing voter registration. They said, don't bother me, I voted already. So join the ranks of those who have voted already. It's been a pleasure. You may watch this on the TV. The tape will be going to them tonight. And thank you very much for coming. You'll read about it in the news record. Anybody, any other press?
I'm here.
Who are you?
I'm Patton DeSoma.net, and I'm the glad to be here.
Tap into Maplewood. So do it. And make sure, as the league says, not only go to vote, but take a friend to vote. Thank you so much.